What's up, guys? Welcome to Game Crunch. So today we're going to kind of go over an article here from our friends over at Windows Central, kind of encapsulating a lot of the stuff that's going on with Microsoft right now, as far as transferring games to rival consoles, PlayStation, and they're decreasing hardware sales. So if this is your kind of your thing, I like to talk about gaming news and make fun gaming videos. I do streams, all kinds of fun stuff. If that's your thing, consider giving me a like and subscribe. Anyway, let's get right into this. I highlighted a bunch of key points in this article just to kind of try and keep things short and sweet so we can both get on with our day. So let's dive right into this article here. So, Microsoft's quest for short term money is doing long term damage to Windows, Surface, Xbox, and beyond. Now, we mostly care about Xbox over here. So, I mostly kind of skipped a lot of the parts about the rest of Microsoft. We're really going to focus on Xbox here. But I highlighted key points in some other spots here. So this part here kind of just explains how the CEO here, Satya Nadella, has basically in the past turned the company from declining relevance to prestigious investment in the world. And it kind of goes over some of the cutting edge stuff that they're working on as far as AI and the good stuff they're doing there. But despite the hype surrounding Microsoft's lead in this category, what's often less talked about is how much further Microsoft would be ahead if Satya Nadella and the team at Microsoft hadn't made a range of baffling and short sighted decisions in previous years. So, the thing here that I liked was Microsoft's biggest consistency is that it's inconsistent. But let's get on with the rest of it here. So these parts of the article kind of explain how Microsoft had, their Surface tablets. They kind of canceled their Windows Phone. Then almost 10 years later, the vision seemed to have collapsed. Basically, Satya Nadella said, "Screw all that, just whatever," and kind of abandon the long-term goal for the short-term gains. Um, the rest here kind of goes over, as I was saying, different parts of Microsoft, which we're not too interested in. Let's just get into the Xbox stuff. Um, so this part here kind of goes over that. Corporate is coming for Xbox, which we've seen. We haven't seen so much of Phil Spencer, in the last few months. Pretty much. I apologize. Sorry, I'm dealing with a whole bunch of allergies right now. I had to get myself ready for like an hour to make this video, but corporate is coming for Xbox with short-sighted money now strategies that will cause irreparable damage. But yeah, we haven't. I feel like we haven't really seen much from Phil Spencer, like almost like since the acquisition. Like it's almost like corporate kind of took over at that point. But this kind of goes over some of that stuff in the hardware sales, which I did kind of touch on yesterday in the shorts. I do a bunch of daily shorts, which is kind of why the channel is called Game Crunch Daily. Um, Basically talking about daily gaming news, and you can catch that. Usually the shorts are about 45 seconds long, talks about a big article in the gaming space. Again, if that's your thing, like, subscribe. But let's continue. Xbox hardware sales are down around 30% year over year for 2 years in a row. Part of that is due to poor game lineup, which we have seen. Like, they just haven't really been pumping out much. I mean, they got a whole bunch of stuff in the works, but they finally got Starfield out. But we're still waiting to hear any more from Perfect Dark or anything else that they've got going that has been a while. A part of it is general gaming downturn, which we have seen since COVID. People unfortunately got to go back to work, so gaming in general has taken a little bit of a hit there. But Microsoft seems to take it way harder than everybody else did. Despite all this, though, Xbox has had record revenue, even before Activision Blizzard joined. So that's some good news for the Xbox brand. So I think what they're seeing here is the decline in their hardware, but still they're making money off their software. So this is where you're seeing Satya Nadella be like, okay, well, let's focus on what's working. Which, I mean, in a business sense and everything, makes sense. I couldn't argue against that. You should focus on what's working. And kind of maybe push the side projects off a little bit. But I feel like at this point, Xbox is more than just a side project. You know what I mean? And I think the overall brand could be damaged in the long term. And this is kind of what this article goes over. That without those sort of exclusive titles, without any reason to get an Xbox, why buy an Xbox? And I think if they continue down this path and they don't, immediately do a 360 and walk the other way, the meme. Um, Xbox will be finished. There won't be an Xbox console. There may not be a next Xbox console. Don't know. So let's continue here. Despite all this, wait, I already said that. Still, it resulted immediately in hundreds of layoffs, game cancellations, squeezed budgets, studio closures. So even despite all that, I mean, we just saw Tango, which all of us are shaking our head like, why? Hi-Fi Rush was doing really good. Hi-Fi Rush was a good game. Why wouldn't you keep investing in a company like that? Doesn't make any sense, right? But now Microsoft corporatism is infecting the goodwill and momentum Xbox had been generating for years. So it's kind of what we're saying here. They're kind of just, focusing on short-term gains and not the long-term goal here. They're going to end up as just a game publisher, game developer at this point, and they're not going to have any say in what's going on. And I think actually it kind of explains that a little bit further down. We're almost through this. Hang with me. Satya Nadella previously has no love for the world of console exclusive games. So it's clear if this guy's taking the reins, he doesn't give a shit about Xbox. He doesn't care about the console at all. All he cares about is selling games. That's it. The strategy to move Xbox exclusive games to PlayStation, the strategy has been met with widespread alarm from Xbox users and confusion from its pundits. So, I mean, anyone that's an Xbox fan, I'm actually an Xbox fan. I'd say I actually prefer Xbox to PlayStation. Just like the video, anyone that likes PlayStation. I also like PlayStation, so chill. I have a PS5. I love PlayStation, but usually if a game comes on both, I usually get it on Xbox, and most of that just has to do with the controller. I just like the controller better for Xbox, but not a PlayStation hater, so chill out. It stands to reason that moving your exclusive games like Halo, Gears, Forza to PlayStation eliminates a reason to buy an Xbox console, which is what I was just saying. That'll be the death of the Xbox console, if not this generation coming, which, the next consoles will probably be 2026, 2028. I don't have any insider information, but just general console life cycles that'll probably be in that time frame. There might not be an Xbox console. I mean, if it keeps declining 30%, maybe they put out one more, and that's the end of it. So basically, once again, handing the keys to your future other platforms. So it does actually talk about a little further up in the article. Maybe I should have highlighted that, but basically how they kind of handed over the keys to Google and Apple as far as the phones go. Said, screw the Windows phone, we're done with that crap. Which, I mean, I'll be honest, I worked with phones for 8 years. Windows Phone was a piece of shit. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to improve it. You got to compete. You know what I mean? So they just kind of handed over the keys. They're kind of doing the same thing with Xbox here. You're also decreasing the footprint for game developers. This isn't something I really thought of. Who will increasingly see Xbox versions as wasting time. And I mean, I think we've already started to see some of that, where some of these games have been going to PlayStation first, and then, or even PlayStation and Nintendo, and then they come to Xbox later. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was the other way around, where they would go to Xbox and PlayStation, and then maybe go to Nintendo later. So Nintendo's kind of really turned that around, especially with their, extremely underpowered at this point Switch. They plan to move Xbox games to other platforms, codenamed Latitude. So you may have heard in other videos, articles, that this is kind of what's going around, is what we're talking about. Actually, the code name for this whole operation, Latitude, where they're going to move games to other platforms. More upcoming Microsoft-owned games slated for PlayStation already being developed. So we keep hearing this, that they're going to keep pushing more and more. I don't think there's really going to be much left in the next couple of years that isn't, Xbox might not even have an exclusive game. If Perfect Dark comes out and it doesn't get canceled, and the studio doesn't get canned, there's a chance that game, which has now been in development for Xbox consoles and Elder Scrolls, will just go on both anyway. I guess they take a bigger piece of the pie because they own Bethesda. They own the studio. But it seems kind of a little counterproductive to buy the studios and then put it all on PlayStation anyway. Microsoft is pushing for a no red line for what games could come to PlayStation. So this is what Satya Nadella has been talking about. He says he doesn't care, man. He's just like, I don't care. I want it all on PlayStation. We'll just take all the money. And maybe with his short-sighted sort of outlook on this stuff, he might even be just like, maybe he's thinking he's on his way out on Microsoft too, because these CEOs will do that sometimes, where they will really just kind of make a lot of short-sighted decisions to try and make a lot of money really, really quickly, rather than the long-term sustainability of the company, because they get huge bonuses and whatnot based on that, and he doesn't care. He's just going to get his money and go. So could be seeing something like that. Like many of Microsoft's other recent strategies, pursuing the strategy is a short-term margin booster with long-term consequences. And I think we've come to that conclusion here just talking about it. And then the last little part here, this kind of just goes over the Microsoft's need to learn some patience, which there was just a couple lines here that I kind of liked. Something to be said about playing the long-term game, which Microsoft seems to be throwing in the towel for their long-term game for Xbox. People often overestimate what will happen in the next 2 years and underestimate what will happen in 10. So that's a quote from Bill Gates, which was the former CEO. And I think that's a great quote. People focus too much on, what about next year? What we should be maybe focusing on is not so much next year, but the next 10 years. And sometimes you have to take a few rough years, a few tough years, to really get that long-term gain. If you're just always fighting for that next year to try and make that next year just a little bit better than the last, you're always kind of just stuck in that pattern where you're always just kind of struggling. It's almost more beneficial in some cases just to really struggle, really grind for a little bit to see a huge increase later, rather than very, very short-term increases in the short term. But anyway, that's the article. I want to know your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think. Is Xbox on its way out? Will there be another Xbox console? Do you think this is a good idea? I'm sure if you just own a PS5, this is awesome. You're probably like, hell yeah. I mean, some people just have a PlayStation. And for the consumer, I think this is actually not so much a bad thing. But again, maybe one of those long-term versus short-term things, because what you're doing then is really just eliminating the competition. So yeah, short term, this might be great. All your games are coming to PlayStation, yay. But if PlayStation doesn't have a major competitor in the console space, if Nintendo's not interested in competing on hardware, and Sony doesn't have to compete in hardware, we might be seeing a point, especially where they are talking about how these games are getting so expensive to develop. We might be starting to see a point where Sony just says, well, screw it, we'll do a PS6, and then, I mean, that's strong enough. You know, the games are too expensive to develop on anything stronger than that, so let's just go with a PS6. But, yeah, anyway, let me know what you think down below. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. Take care.